Jose Ramirez.
I'm Bob Arum.
Hi, I'm Robert Garcia, and I'm with the Fighter's Voice.
The only radio show knocking out the competition. Fighter's Voice Radio Show.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, Richard Ortiz of the Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. We got a great show for you too this evening. We're going to do a recap on the big fight that happened this weekend. We're going to talk some MMA, but most of all, we got to stop this bleeding because, you know, there's just blood everywhere. So when that happens, we either need a cut man, we need prayer, stay out of the shark-infested oceans. You just got to stay away from it, man. I mean, because when that happens, you can get a Band-Aid, you can do what you do. But I'll tell you what, when you go back to the Roman days and those gladiators are fighting, when they're making things happen and there's no Band-Aids, there's nobody there but maybe some man who wants to put his hand over that patch, over that cut, and that's all that you have. But in today's world, you have a Picasso who can write up a nice painting. You have an architect who can create beautiful buildings. You have someone that has the aroma that can put together some nice perfume or cologne. But when you're in the boxing element, when you're in the cage, all you need is my next guest. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only. I would even call him the godfather of soul, but I'm going to call him the godfather of stopping the cuts, stopping the bleeding. Ladies and gentlemen, and that's the one and only Mr. Mike Bazzel. How we doing, sir?
I'm really good, Richard. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Hey, man, I had to put a little more into it because I know Mike Rodriguez is watching the show, man, a friend of yours. And last time I just started the show off and I didn't give him an intro. And he said, Richard, run it back. My mom's listening to the show, my man. And you know, we got to give a proper introduction. So I know he's viewing the show today. He's a big supporter of the Fighter's Voice Knockout podcast. And we'll get into Mike Rodriguez as well. But I wanted to give you that intro, man, that well-deserved intro, because I've been hearing good things about you. We got questions and comments coming in today from Sean Gibbons, from Lee Samuels, from Robert Garcia, and of course Mike Rodriguez, from Ernie Jaimez, and my phone continues to go forth, man. But before we just dive right into it, man, I mean, and I want to do it right now. Tell us all about yourself, man. I mean, you know, being a cut man is not something, you know, the average person just wakes up in the morning and says, you know what do you want to be? I want to be a football player. I want to be a scientist. Well, you know what? I want to stop the bleeding, man. And when did you decide in your life that that's the professional place you wanted to be?
Well, I mean, it kind of just happened, to be honest with you. I started in this as a strength trainer. That's how I started in boxing. And,
exactly.
It just happened where back in 2006, Brian Schwartz, Eddie Croft opened up Undisputed Boxing Gym in San Carlos, California, and I joined them. And in those times, back in 2005, in California, they legalized MMA. Well, I'd been training different guys, Eugene Jackson. I worked with Tim Lasik, a few of the younger guys in the area, and they from Gladiators Gym in Redwood City. That's why I used to be working with that with Elo Ramirez. And, you know, during those times, I was a strength trainer and stuff. In the fights, I would just hold the bucket for the guys in, like, the Golden Gloves and a lot of amateur fights. Mm-hmm. And in 2006, when we opened the boxing gym, we were going to be boxing. But they legalized MMA. So everybody that joined the gym wanted to be an MMA fighter. No box. Everyone wanted to fight in the cage. It was like instant fame. Instant recognition. They made more money than fighters did. They got little belts right away, and so we started training these guys. I didn't know anything about it. Brian and Eddie were both martial artists. They were both, Brian was a world kickboxing champion. Eddie was one of the best boxing professional fighters in the area, and he had also, I think, he had won some kickboxing titles, and they were martial artists. And anyway, long story short. Brian was very close with Scott Coker at Strikeforce. We started getting fights for these kids in the cage. So I would go to the fights, right, as a second, holding the bucket for these guys.
There you go.
Stuff. And we were doing it, and I think in 2007, we were at a Strike Force event, and we had a young kid fighting, and they all provided cut men. Kind of started doing it similar to UFC, like Stitch Duran had started,
right,
where they provided the cut man, the guy that wrapped the hands, all that. And our kid was getting his hands wrapped, and the guy was going, "Don't worry, if there's bleeding, I'll stop it for you. I want you to feel comfortable, safe. I got you, right? I've been doing this for a while." Well, comes to we're walking out to the venue, and the cut man is wrapping another fighter, and we're going, "Hey man, we're going in. You coming?" He goes, "I can't right now." And I go, "What? What do you mean?"
Wow.
"What do you mean can't?" And he goes, I got to wrap this other kid. The commission won't let me go, but I'll meet you guys out there. Don't worry, I'll meet you there. I go, what? And Brian, like going, "What the hell are you talking about?" Anyway, Jane, who worked with Kung Lee, she's still in the game, and she's a cut woman and trainer, and she works for I think she works for Bellator now. And she said, "Give me a crash course. Here's some gauze. Here's no medicine, but here's gauze. Here's an inswell. Put pressure. She just gave me a crash course in doing cuts, and I went out. And our fighter luckily knocked the guy out in the first round. He didn't need a cut man. And when we came back to the dressing room, me and Brian looked at each other and said, "We will never get caught with our pants down again." And I'm going to start learning. So
Exactly. I mean, you may have to even thank the fighter for knocking his opponent out.
Oh, hell yeah. I was like, "Man, what?" I was like, squeeze it. She told me the technique, what to do. Direct pressure, squeeze it, put the gauze on it, hope for the best.
Wow.
But there was no, I know anything how to do that. And then I started learning. I literally started learning, and I was in the beginning one of those guys that I'm a cut man, but I wasn't a cut man. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn, and it took a lot of fights. It took a lot of time, a lot of watching people, a lot of learning, observing, and actually just being willing to do it. You just got to be willing. You got to be willing to just jump in there and go. And I always made a promise to myself. When I made a mistake, I wouldn't make it again. I wouldn't make it twice. So I always remembered the mistakes I made and tried never to repeat them again.
Yeah, monitor, please. Yeah, no, exactly. And sometimes, it takes that, I want to say, opportunity, or it took that, hey, the commissioner kept me down here. Or yeah. I wouldn't be talking to Mike Bazzel, the cut man. I'd be talking to Mike Bazzel, probably the trainer or the architect or, speed and agility coach, one of the two. But now I'm talking to Mike Bazzel, the cut man.
Yep, that's right.
So,
opportunity knocked and I took it.
So you told yourself, hey, I'm not going to be caught with my pants down again, as if to say, okay, I'm going to make sure I know everything in this industry as far as being able to cut, being a cut man, a trainer, whatever it is. I just don't want to walk out there blind. When did you decide to make the transition fully?
It was during that time, and then that was the first step towards being, working cuts in a corner. Like I said before, I would hold the bucket. I was a strength trainer, so I would be in the gym with the guys. I wasn't really valuable to go to the corner, to be involved in that aspect of the game. So I wanted to say, I want to be of value in the corner. I don't want to be someone who is just there to be there. I want to be of value to the fighter. Otherwise, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to the corner. I don't want to be involved in the actual fight if I'm not of value. And then I started, working with fighters and being involved in the gym. You start, being able to, not just assist, but in some cases, in some amateur cases, and then some guys as they were turning pro, I was actually the coach for certain guys. So that started too. But that all evolved, as the years went by.
Let me ask you this: what do you feel most comfortable doing? I mean, I know you love wrapping hands, being involved. What wakes you up in the morning and says, especially when there's a big event? I know you love stopping the blood, but what really gets you going? I mean, because from speed, a strength coach, I mean, that takes a lot of dedication as well too. When you get your fighter and you put him or her in the best shape of their life, as opposed to this fighter in the corner, this fight's about to be stopped, but yet your expertise in what you've learned throughout the years, you're able to stop the bleeding, and the fighter's able to continue, and not only that, but walk away with a victory.
Yeah, that part is my passion. In the gym, day in, day out, preparing someone for a fight, for an event, for a show. That's what I get up in the morning for. I love that. And, you know, during the COVID, this whole year, I've been pretty much solely dedicated to, you know, Cutman. Last year as well, and the year before that, Cutman gig, the job became more, that was what I was mostly hired for, and that was what was mostly happening for me. And that's why it kind of has taken over a little bit. But because of COVID, because of the restrictions we have in the gyms, because of everything, and me just being hired and being on the road all the time, I haven't been in the gym as much as I want to. And that is my passion. That is what I really want to be. That's where I want to be.
Well, you know what, that passion right there drives these other fighters, man. I mean, and they're grateful and thankful, and they know, that whole team, that they're in good hands if leaking starts, that you're there to stop it. When did you ask yourself, I mean, like when you went home, stopping a fight, that you just sat down, that there's no press around you, there's no family around you, when you're thinking, my gosh, this guy was losing blood. I mean, he definitely, I mean, you're even patting yourself on the shoulder. This fight was definitely going to be stopped, but these two hands and the knowledge that I have, I was able to not only stop the blood, the fighter was able to be successful and able to see during the course of the fight.
Yeah, there's been a lot of examples of that, you know. A lot of examples of that, and it's been it was fun. It's been but it is one of those things, Richard, when you're home, when you're back in the hotel, you're by yourself, you're you know, because a lot of times, you know, to be honest with you, a lot of people don't recognize the things you do. You know, you listen to your peers, you know, the Mike Rodriguez's, the Stitch Durans, the you know, Bob Ware's, the guys that, you know, they watch you. They're the ones that, you know, the Aaron Navarro's, they're the ones that look at you and say, hey, man, that was a hell of a job you did. Because a lot of people don't really see what you do. And in today's television broadcast, they usually cut the corners out anyway.
Yeah, you know what? I noticed they've been doing that lately.
12-round fight, 10-round fight, you might get one or two, you know, spots where they actually show your work in the corner if there's a cut.
Yeah.
They don't do that all the time.
No.
So not these days. In the HBO days they did stuff like that, but not now as much. And you know, that's one of the things that early in my career, Joe Chavez, the late Joe Chavez, who worked with, you know, gosh, Miguel Cotto, he was a legend. Yeah. And we had a lot of fighters that were working in for the Don Shargan shows. Yeah. Remember Paco Presents?
That's old school. That's old school.
But yeah, so we had a lot of guys working, and I would work a lot of fights. And Joe came up to me one day and he said, "Hey, I saw that you know, working these, you know, you're working cuts." He goes, I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I saw you the other day. Last show I saw you did a great job." He goes, "I see you wrap hands." And I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "That's great. That's a great skill. That's a skill as a cut man that will help you. That'll help you get jobs." And he goes, "You know, I've been doing this over 40 years." And he goes, "You know, the only advice I could give you is know that you don't know everything.
There you go.
That you always learn something." He goes, "I could learn something from a guy that's been doing this for 2 weeks. If I watch and observe, I might learn something from him. I'm not going to say I won't ever learn anything from someone that I know at all." So he was a very smart guy. And he actually influenced me a lot, and we became friends. And you know, I'm very grateful for all the talks that I have with guys like Mike Rodriguez and, you know, Stitch Duran, and when we talk about the game and talk about all this stuff, and I love all that because they help me. They help me continue, help me always improving my game, always improving, always looking we're always watching fights and always
Yeah.
looking at the next, trying to pick something up. Always learn. I learn something new in every single fight I do. Every single fight, I learn something new.
Well, I've been watching you throughout the years. I've been watching you doing top rank events, Golden Boy, PBC. You're everywhere. You're everywhere, man. I mean, and you'll come in with your luggage. I mean, you got the tape around your wrist. You're ready to go. You're amped, almost like an assassin when he comes in with a 3-piece suit in his briefcase and it's loaded with some ammo, brother. You got your backpack. It's ready to go, and you're like, okay, something start bleeding because I'm about to put it out now. It's like the superhero of boxing, my man.
It's that's the attitude that I have. I think a lot of us have. Gosh, I mean, what is that? 2007 till now. What is that? What is that? 13
14 years? Yeah. No, it's that. Yeah, no, 13 years. Yeah, absolutely right.
He's like, he's been doing this a lot longer than me.
Yeah.
He's as different. He's really relaxed. He doesn't have that. I'll be a little pumped up, and he's like, hey man, we're good. We got nothing we ain't seen before,
Yeah.
But
real seasoned.
Because we prepare ourselves. It's just I do have that amped feeling. Like I was working the fight when Teofimo Lopez fought Lomachenko. I had Teofimo, and he had, I was on his swelling around the eyes from round 1. And Mike Rodriguez, he recognized that, and he, after the fight, he had told me, he goes, I seen what you were doing. I saw what you were doing from the whole fight, right? Preventative on him. But he got cut in the last round. Yeah,
the headbutt, and then what did they? Was it 15 seconds left? Something to that effect. Yeah.
And that's after the fight.
No, okay, wait. Let me take that back. Was that a headbutt or a punch? I don't want to take anything away from Lomachenko. Even though it's the fight is history.
I think it was from a butt. I think it was from a butt. I think, but it was a nice one. Yeah. It was a nice little slice over the eye. I think if it would have happened, like I was, Teofimo, he was like, man, Baz, because I was working on it, and then he was like, could you come with me? I'm going to go do the interview. I need you to come with me just to keep it from, because I didn't want to put a bunch of, because he's got to get it. The fight's over. Yeah. I'm not going to pack it with Vaseline, and he's got to get it cleaned out and stitched up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cleaned up.
Sense of getting it infected. I mean, if it's during the fight, you're packing that wound. You're doing what you can so he can have another round in him, so he can continue in the fight. But now it's over, so I'm just kind of dabbing it. I'm keeping it from, I put some medicine in it with the swab and stuff, and trying to keep it from bleeding. So anyway, we go to the thing, and actually Stitch came out, and he was like, "Man, you got lucky on that one." And to be honest with you, I was expecting that cut from the very first round, so I was ready, mentally ready for that.
I was about to ask you, can you imagine if that fight, if that could happen 10 seconds into that round or even round 11, and he had to fight the whole 11th round, and then it was up to you between 11 and 12.
Right. I was ready for that. And I actually, I don't want to say I was hoping for that, but I was definitely ready for it. And I worked with a lot of fighters with kids. Unnerly, and he had Sergey Derenchenko when we had fought Triple G, and that was another night that I got a lot of recognition, and for keeping Sergey in the fight for that, one of the Fight of the Year candidates of last year. Yeah. And he goes, "Hey, Baz, man, you ever think damn, I don't, not again. I don't want to." I said, "Never, and never think that way. I want to be the first guy up in that ring." I want to be right away. I want, you guys down, I'm in the middle. There's a lot of guys, especially during this COVID era. Yeah. I'll be working, me, Stitch, Mike Rodriguez. We're all working these guys, different fighters, because we're the house cut men for shows, and we work all of them. And I tell the guys right away, as soon as there's the damage is there, the cuts happen, I say, "Hey, I'm going in the middle." I haven't had a coach yet tell me, no, man, no, I got it. You stay on the outside. They let me go in the
Hey,
middle.
you got a job to do, man. You're not there just to get that shoulder shot from the camera, man. You're there to stop the bleeding. This guy's, not only the fight is in jeopardy, his whole career could be in jeopardy, because you don't need it going to the scorecards or being stopped right now. There's still a lot of fight in him, but he needs his vision, and you're one of the ones that you're that link, man. It just happens. You need to be there constantly.
Oh yeah. It's very important to me, and take great pride in what I'm doing, and I'm pretty serious, dead serious when I'm in when it's fight day.
No, you are. I've been there when you're coming into Las Vegas, and I'm glad I got you on the show, because I would always see you, and we really couldn't sit down and have a conversation, brother, because you're always working. If you're not cutting the wrap off the fighter or touching him up after the fight, you're preparing him, man, and you're in your zone. So I kind of give you your distance, but I always knew, and we'd have small talk and say, we got to get you on the show, and he said, Richard, sure, anytime. And I was there, I believe, the last time I saw you in Vegas, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. I think you were walking through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a small conversation. Yes.
Right. We were on the undercard.
Yes.
Yeah, and then that was a great show.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to get to some of these questions, because I really want to hear these stories, man. But I got to ask you this, man, and you're probably not going to admit it and say, yeah, Rich, you're absolutely right. Now, like a baseball player, if they said, Ortiz, get on deck, and I'm swinging that bat, okay, and I'm ready, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get an AB, I'm not going to get an at bat. Come on now. Almost the equivalent as if, come on, bro, I'm ready to go. Somebody get a headbutt or something, man. I mean, I'm putting something out. I'm all amped. I'm ready to go. Don't worry, he'll be in good hands. I mean, as a cut man, do they ever, I don't want to say hope for that, or they just kind of, I'm prepared for this. I don't just want to go home without showing my skill set or saving this fighter.
Yeah. I mean, you want to, we'll say it. Like, we'll say, shit. We got the good cuts tonight. I got the good cuts tonight.
Oh, there you go.
The other guy got the cuts tonight. Or, hey, guys, no cuts tonight. But there's always swelling.
Yeah.
There's always some damage, and that's another art form. That's not just the blood part. Bloody noses, very difficult. They're very challenging.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, they're hidden wounds. They're up in the nose, but you don't know how deep it is. You don't know if it's an existing wound from training. You don't know what exactly has happened. Sometimes a guy's broken his nose. Yeah. And that's there's a lot of swelling going on then. And deep red blood, and sometimes it pours, sometimes it doesn't, Sometimes they're easy to deal with. Sometimes you use a whole bottle of adrenaline on that bloody nose. Yeah. And you got to be ready for stuff like that, It's challenging. Swelling is very challenging.
I mean, because the fight could also be stopped because of the swelling too into the eye. So, it's a different skill set that you have, correct?
Yes. I mean, if you remember when Chris Algieri fought Prodnikov and he won his world title, round, I think he got his eyes shut, almost completely closed. Well, I started working with Chris on his comeback, and I've been with Chris for 3-4 fights now, and every fight his eyes shut. Both eyes are shutting and closing,
Sometimes you just have that type of fighter.
Yeah, it is super challenging to work those, and he's been cut and damaged in almost in every fight I've worked with him. And same thing would be with Sergey Devonchenko. All the fights I worked with him, 5 and 6 fights. The Toriano Johnson fight, the Kolke fight. He's swollen and bleeding in every fight. So there's always damage. And those are things that you always work on. I did not work when Michaela Meyer won her world title. Last weekend, I think, she won her first world title. Well, she had Manny Robles, she had Coach Al and Coach K. She had her whole team with her. Yeah. But right before that,
shout out to Manny Robles.
Coach Al couldn't be there. He had contacted COVID. Thank God he was better, but he couldn't be there. So I was actually her cut man in the fight. So Manny, he had told me, he said, "No, man, I want you to work the cuts." He goes, "Me and Coach Al, that'll give me an opportunity to work with her." Well, she won the fight pretty good, but she had swelling. So I addressed her swelling each and every round. Now, did I save her? No, but would it have closed if I didn't address it? Yeah, it could have closed and could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely.
can. You want to make sure you address that very soon. Sometimes you do preventative stuff if you know the fighter does swell up. You might have ice bags on the kid in the dressing room going out to the fight. You might have that type of stuff. I remember talking to Doc Anderson, who does a lot of all the cuts for Robert Garcia, and they would sometimes have Mikey Garcia had nosebleeds. He just would get them in every fight. Well, they would address some of that in the dressing room before he even fight started. So there was all kind of stuff like that you can that you do as you know your fighter, or as you sometimes, especially these days, not knowing the guys right away. I'll watch their previous fights and start to see. I can work with Pedroza, work with him at Top Rank, and I noticed, his fights with Lomachenko, those things, he swelled up, very easy bruise right away. So I addressed it right out the gate.
And that's the way to do things, to spot it. And you know who you're working with. I mean, can you imagine if you got the call and said, hey, I need you to work the corner of a Nate Diaz? I mean, talk about scar tissue, Yes. And you want that. I would be honored to be picked for that. And I'd be like, Rudy, I think Rudy Hernandez does his cuts in the UFC. And, I've learned a lot from Rudy. And Richard Perez is his boxing coach, Yeah,
Rudy's great. He's one of the best there is, And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him.
Mike, let me ask you this, man. I mean, and I'm going to leave it right there as one of the best in the biz, okay? Talking about the best in the biz, whenever I brought you up to these guys, I mean, they just said, oh, my gosh, are you going to have them on tonight? What time do you guys start? He goes, nothing but good things to say, that you're a storyteller, and that, you just have some fun along the way. And I got a question from Hall of Famer and one of the best trainers in the business, if not the best, but I'm not ready just to give him that title just yet, because you still got the Freddie Roaches out there, the Buddy McGirts, and the list goes on, man. I mean, I can go on and on about trainers, but I'm talking about Robert Garcia's from Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy. He said, you know what, first of all, Richard, tell him I said thank you, man. I enjoy his work that he's done with all my fighters this summer. Because of him, we feel like we got one up on every fighter and every event that we're taking, because having you in that corner.
That's awesome. I know I've worked with all of Robert's fighters during this the Top Rank bubble, during the summer series and all of this year. Been blessed.
One thing about Robert, man, they can call and they said, hey, do you have any fighters? And he's like, I got a couple fighters. I mean, in that stable, there, you know what I mean? When you pass by, have you ever been to Robert, I mean, Mike, let me ask you this. Have you ever been to a dog pound? You pass by, you hear the dogs barking,
yes.
Right? I mean, and then you hear that one, there's a dog fight in there. They must be feeding them or something, right? Now, when you walk by Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy, man, it's like walking by a dog pound, because you hear these animals in there. You hear these vicious dogs. And when you open that door, iron sharpens iron in there. It's like when you open that door, man, it's almost like a mystery. Like the Wizard of Oz, when you open that door, it was black and white and now it's color. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, when they landed on Oz or what have you. When you open the door of Robert Garcia's Boxing Academy, it's like a transition. Like you almost went into a haunted house, man, of nothing but athletes, dogs, and warriors, man. Iron sharpens iron in that gym.
And Robert's one of the guys that influenced me, and I've learned a lot from Robert. I worked with my first world champion was that I had the opportunity to work with was Nonito Donaire. And I've been with Nonito for 12 years. And Robert was training him. He was one of the head trainers, I think maybe the third year of me and Nonito being together. And Robert used to drive up to Northern California, and he would, be in training camp with us, 2 or 3 days out of the week, and drive back. And he's very busy, right? He had all these fighters, so very difficult for him to just always up to Northern California. We trained at Undisputed Boxing Gym. And anyway, I'm in the gym, and I'm the strength trainer, right? I'm in shape, fast.
Let me just back you up on that. Yes, you are. Because when I see you holding your luggage and stuff, and your shirt's wrapped around that big bicep and looking like Popeye's arms, I'm saying, yeah, this dude's fit, man.
And I took pride in that. I mean, when I was bucket and stool guy, I would tell you, nobody put the bucket and stool in quicker and more efficient than me. I was fast. Everything I did, I always took pride in it. So we're in the gym, and Robert, sometimes I would see Robert in different fights, and I would say, hey, man, Robert, you looking in shape, man. You training? He goes, yeah, I'm training. And then some days Robert would be like, I'm tired, man. I mean, he's working. He's always training people, always, working fighters.
Yeah.
So we're in the gym, and we're working, Nonito sparring this kid from Detroit. And all of a sudden, Nonito hits him with that famous left hook.
Yep.
And the guy's out. Well, I swear to you, Richard, I am
In the gym of sparring? Took him out?
sparring in the gym.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm about to go in the ring, and Robert is already in the ring. He's got his hand under the guy's neck and telling me, Baz, go get ice. And I'm like, how the hell did this guy get in the ring so fast?
Hey, man.
He beat me. And I go, then after the thing was over, he just knew exactly what to do, told me exactly what to get, the whole thing. And I recognized that from Robert. I said, you know why he's this way? Because his ring reflexes are outstanding. Because he is in the ring every single weekend.
Exactly.
He's working fights every single weekend. He's in the gym every single day. At the time, I was with Nonito for his fights, but they were, we'd have 3 months break in between those. I was working some amateur fights. I wasn't in the ring all the time. So then I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dedicate if I really, really want to be good, if I really want to take this serious, I got to be in the ring all the time. So then I started volunteering for all the amateur fights and every fight I could possibly do. I started getting involved. And the camo, the amateur MMA.
Right.
Because that was a way also to work and learn how to do cuts. Because back in those days, those kids weren't allowed to wear headgear, so they would get cut up.
Yeah,
so
small gloves, absolutely.
You didn't make no money, but shit, you worked every fight and you got to practice. And that's what I started doing. And that really helped me. That day in the gym with Robert, I'll always say, I've talked to Pita and Mikey when they were up here training, when Mikey Garcia was up here training at Snack, where I worked also. He, I told him, I said, hey, Robert, man, your dad, he's one of the influences that great influence in my career.
Yep. Oh, that's the G right there. Now, talking about being able to get in the ring, Big G can still get in that ring. He can get in there. He can move. Don't let him fool you. He don't just show up just to show up every day. He's ready to hold those pads and get back in there. And, one day he's going to put the headgear on and just, hey, is anybody worthy of this? Because he can still kick some ass. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm
great watching, even the guys I've been able to work with Freddie Roach on this in the summer series and all this. And I've been working with Elvis Rodriguez, his fighter.
I was about to ask you that, man. You're reading my notes. Are my notes on the monitor there? No, they're not. Yes, Elvis Rodriguez. Let's switch up. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about that young power that he has. And you know what? I've never seen Freddie. Freddie, when he's working with Elvis Rodriguez, it's like the second coming of his new fighter, his new prospect. He's like a kid in his candy store. Freddie just lights up when he's around him.
Oh yeah, it's his new thing. I remember, I have a gym in San Mateo, in Aloha Time Boxing, and we've been in there 3 years. My fighter and partner is Bruno, the Aloha Kid Escalante. And Bruno, when we were training, he was training with Brian Schwartz and Undisputed. That's how we met him. We met him through Nonito Donaire back when he turned pro. And but there was a time Bruno was having a hard time. We couldn't get a fight. It was a hard time in his career. He's a super flyweight. Well, Bruno drove down to Wild Card. He just said, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make the happen. So he drove down by himself, and he started sparring guys. He started going to war down in Wild Card, down in that gunslinger freaking town of Wild Card. And, Freddie, so I would go down there a couple of times, and I would see Freddie and, got to meet him. Wasn't really close to him at all, but Bruno was. And, just talking to Freddie, I'd say I would notice that even after the biggest fight, obviously I wasn't there when he had Pacquiao. But I'm like going, you were just in the biggest fight of the year in Vegas. And everyone, usually the fighters are out partying, whatever's going on. When I go, man, you're back in wild card.
Catches the first flight back. Catches the first flight back, my man.
And I go, you never really enjoy anything? Do you ever take time to enjoy it? He goes, I come back to the gym. This is what I enjoy. And he goes, you know why I come back at 6 a.m. and open that door? Because I never know who the next world champion is going to walk in.
That's right.
I'll be there
Awesome.
when he does.
Awesome.
And that's guys like Elvis Rodriguez right there. You see a kid like that.
Exactly.
Very starting out, that's his next guy.
It is. And I tell you, at Wild Card, they're not just a gym, they're a family. With Marie, of course. I mean, she handles everything there. And, it's very warm in there, very welcoming in there. And when you walk in there, my man, it's like a museum of the who's who that have been in there. If you can make it up on that wall, you are definitely somebody. I mean, let's talk about it. You had Kobe Bryant in there. Sylvester Stallone was in there. Marky Mark was in there. Mario Lopez was in there. Of course, Manny Pacquiao was in there. Mike Tyson was in there. And, of course, one of the other badass cutmen that goes in there all the time, Mr. Mike Rodriguez, was in there.
Yes, sir.
And I want to switch it up right now because I've been talking to Mike, man. And when I was talking to Mike about 2 nights ago on the phone. And I'm going to be honest with you. He's probably listening right now. Bazzel, we could have done a whole Fighter's Voice show on our conversation we had over the phone, man. I mean, his storytelling to a T. I mean, you can vision it, like a narrator commentator.
Everything than I do. He is on that.
No, he is. I'm chuckling right now because we're putting up that picture, and I have said it before. I mean, talk about wedding crashers, man. I always give Mike a hard time. I mean, you guys are like dead on each other. You need to let your hair grow back out, man. I mean, I'm looking at the monitor right now. I mean, it's
right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I got to ask you this. In iron sharpens iron, and I say that a lot, not just in the boxing element, but anybody that's doing anything that needs to rub off on somebody or ask a question, be successful. Now, let's talk about the time that you guys both worked the fight, and Mike worked the blue corner, you worked the red corner. How did that go? How does the friendship surface up? Or is it more your focus, I got a job to do? I mean, are you looking over at Mike, at his fighter, like, okay, I'm going to make sure my fighter wins today. And my fighter's not going to, if he loses, it's not going to be because of cuts.
One of the first times, we worked together. When I first met Mike, I had Bruno Escalante, and we fought Matt Villanueva. That was his guy. Bruno cut Matt really bad in like the second round. And damn it, Mike Rodriguez handled that cut. But if Mike Rodriguez wasn't in that fight, I think that we could have had that fight stopped. It was bad. It was a bad cut in a bad area. And, but they had Mike. And that's when I first met him. And we talked at the end of the fight in the dressing room and stuff like that. And the next time I worked across the ring with him, we were on, it was a Golden Boy show, California. I had Nate, a heavyweight. He had Gerald Washington. And Nate was from Texas. Good, could fight, man. But he wasn't necessarily had the best body in the world, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At heavyweight. And if you remember Gerald Washington, he looked like an Adonis.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy well built.
Old school like Mike Weaver.
Oh, my gosh. And in the fight, it was hot. It was in the summer. The TV lights was on. We started, our fight happened. It was on TV. And I think my guy was cut and swollen. I had 3 cuts to deal with, and my guy was swollen. And Mike, we cut Gerald, I think twice, 2 or 3 times as well. So we were both working our butts off. And I think I looked over my shoulder at one point to look at Mike as I was getting in the ring. But it was all business for both of us. But we definitely were talking about that at the end. It was one of those fights that Stitch will say, this will come down to the cutman. And that was one of the fights that came down to it. I mean, my guy came up short on the decision, but we definitely kept Neji in the fight. And it was a super close fight.
No,
ebb and flow. And, Stitch is one of those too that it's one of those when working with him across the ring, it's not competition. But it's not wanting to, you want to make sure you're the one that's recognized as doing the best job.
Absolutely.
we just we encourage each other. I mean, always. But once it's business, you're focused on your fighter, regardless of who's on the other end. I've worked on the other end of Stitch before, of Rudy Hernandez before, all the different guys, and Mike Rodriguez and Aaron Navarro, all the guys I've worked on the opposite ends, and I don't think about what they're doing. I mean, when the shit hits the fan, I'm just right there focusing on my guy.
Oh, you have to be. Talk to us about. Let me change this up, man. What about the time that you saved Mike's ass in England, man? I mean, somebody gave it. Okay, you know how sometimes you go to Ramate and they gave you some knockoff shirts or something, or some fake Gucci or something. I heard they gave him like some fake medicine or something, man. Like they gave him like mint that you would put it on toothpicks or something, and that he was lost out there, and then you came through with the real stuff.
I have a bottle of that adrenaline as well right now, actually.
How did that story go down? When did you know, hey man, this isn't what it is?
Well, what happened is I'm in with Nicola Adams. I'm working with her, 2-time gold medalist for Great Britain.
Right.
And I'm working her one of her fights in England. So I'm on the show. Mike's there with Peter Petrov. He's getting his world title crack against Flanagan. I can't remember the guy's first name, but he's fighting him, world title fight. So Danny, I don't know Danny yet. Danny, the coach, and we're gonna go do this whole thing. And I go, Mike goes, "Hey man, would you want to work with us? Just assist me in the corner." I said, "Of course, sure." He goes, "Danny, he'd like you there too." So I go there, and in the corner, all of a sudden. And I didn't know this rule at the time. I brought my own medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with Nicola. They don't even bother us. I mean, this girl's royalty in England, right? And she's just working a 4-round fight. So her fight's over. This is a world title fight I'm over there with Mike. And all of a sudden I notice, I go, Peters gets cut right in the forehead. Pretty good gap from a butt. It's bleeding. And Mike comes down. I'm putting, I jump up with him. I look at it. Mike comes down, the thing's bleeding still. Pretty good. And Mike goes, I go, "Damn, man." I go, "That thing's deep. It might have hit a vein or something." He goes, "No, it's this damn medicine they gave me. This stuff's garbage. I think it's water." And I go, "Mike, I got my stuff." And he goes, "You do?" And I go, "Yeah, I didn't know. I have my own stuff. I'm already swabbed up." And he goes, "Well, give it to me in this round." So the next round, he takes my stuff. He puts it on Peter's forehead. That shit closes like that. It's a wrap. And I go, I don't know, whatever the hell they gave us. It smells funny. It don't even smell like adrenaline. Anyway, that stuff closed right off the gate. We had no problems with it in the fight. So it was like, in that point, he was, we always tell the story of just like, damn, man. I mean, it was less, in a world title fight. It just was. We were very fortunate that happened that night.
Well, and you're very fortunate that you were just there for each other. Again, it gets back to brother. It gets back to iron sharpens iron, man. I mean, you're just there for one another.
Different fights. We worked together in Julian Williams' fights together.
Yeah.
We were together in Sean Porter's fights. A couple of Sean Porter fights. Me and Mike were in the corner together. I love that. I love working with guys that are. I was able to work with Russ Amber in a fight at the Bubble. I worked with him. Also always Miguel Diaz. I worked with him. It's been a blessing to do that. I love assisting other cutmen in the game. I love it, and it's just you just learn. You learn right in there.
Exactly.
If you're bringing on, Mike's done a great job bringing his son Andrew along in the game. But it's a very difficult thing, I mean, Andrew's super talented.
Let me just stop you right there. When you bring that up, that's a whole nother chapter in life. We're going to be doing a book later on, and when Andrew, because I heard Andrew, I mean, he's a chip off the old block. And sometimes they work, from corner from each other. But all that knowledge is going into this young, hungry lion that just wants to continue to grow in this industry, man. And you mark my word, man. I mean, they'll be writing a book together, father and son.
Oh yeah, it's a great story that's developing, and but again, it's one of those things where he's able to have Andrew in the corner with him sometimes, and Andrew can watch him. He's also has like what me and Mike have done. Like you take that side, you take the right side, I'll take the left side. We've done that fights.
Yeah, he told me that a certain fighter. Yeah, he worked one side, he worked another side.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's like that's where you get the opportunity up close to see a guy do his job, do his work, and you learn from it. Like I said, I've learned something new from every single fight I've always worked.
And even that fighter, himself, he has to be blessed and say, I got the best corner in the biz. Can you imagine that? It started leaking and you guys were there.
That makes me feel the most pride is when the fighter, the trainer, they ask for me, they feel that. They say those things. They say like, hey man, going in, I was with George Kambosos 2 weeks ago in London for his title eliminator with Lee Selby. And Jimmy Kambosos, his father, was with us, and we had Peter Kahn was the manager, Javier Santana was the head coach, I'm the cut man, and Jimmy's telling George in the dressing room as we're going out, we huddle up, and he's like, he goes, it's all up to you now, Georgie. He goes, but look around you. You got the best team in the world right here. You couldn't ask for a better team. Let's go now. You are ready to go. You have all the support you can possibly want. Now it's up to you. And he, of course, won the fight, and now he's in line for the IBF. He's the #1 contender for the IBF lightweight title. And
that's key right there. That going into a fight mentally stress-free, knowing, hey, I got the best corner with me.
Oh, it was pride. I swelled up, man. I had goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's what makes me feel great. When I'm with Freddie Roach and Maria's like, I want to get a picture with the whole team. I want to get a picture with you guys. I want to make sure we get pictures together with everyone. And I'm like, she's considering me as part of the team.
Exactly.
Like, the wild card team. Like, wow.
They have such warm hearts, and I'll give a shout out to Marie. Beautiful woman inside and out. And I don't know, I'll be real quick. I don't know if you know my story, but she gave on the outside of a wall a whole section for my son. And put pictures up there of thumbs up for Richie inside Wildcard Gym. And just a beautiful woman inside and out. And Freddie, too, the whole Wildcard staff, man. When they consider you family and part of the Wildcard family, there's nothing more you can do but continue to be who you are.
Oh, yeah, swells up with pride.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Robert, the same thing. Robert Garcia, he's like, Baz, I want you for all my guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
you know what? Let me just throw this at you. Because I daydream. Everybody else daydreams, but I'm daydreaming. I'm taking this exhibition fight, right? But I'm daydreaming. I'm coming in with both freaking Freddie and Robert in my corner. and you know what? And now I'm gonna have both Mike and Mike in my corner, just in case, man. That's gonna be the freaking dream team right there.
Crash your fight, Richard.
What's that?
The wedding crashers are gonna crash your fight.
Exactly. You guys are gonna come crashing, man. You guys are gonna come crashing. But can you imagine having both of them there? And that's what needs to. And that's what needs to happen one day. Somebody needs to just roll a video and have them both in there or something, or just use them both where there's another Rocky movie or something, and they're going back and forth. That's not gonna work, Freddie. Oh yes, it is, Robert. Can you imagine that? That would just be so great, man. I should get credit for that because someone's gonna pick it up and run with it.
And a lot of times when you don't see that. You don't see that type of banter in the corner itself, but you see it if you're in. Sometimes there needs to be a camera in between the round, during the round.
Absolutely, those are the best stories.
You see a lot of the stuff going on, the banter back and forth between different people, and sometimes the coaches get into it with other coaches.
Yeah. I've seen those too.
I battled the inspectors in between those rounds. I battled the doctors.
When have you ever said? And I'm glad you said that. When have you ever said? Because I've seen some cornerman come in there, and you're trying to stop a cut, and the doctor's coming in. When did you want to say, "Get the hell out of here"? I got this. Because if you turn around and talk to the doctor, your fighter needs you.
I don't do that. Now the reason is now it's back in the days when you saw Angelo Dundee screaming, everything going.
Lou Duva, Angelo Dundee, Lou Duva.
My fighter, get away from him.
And it was actually Lou Duva. He goes, "Get the hell out of here."
Angelo Dundee, they would just scream at the docs, right? They would go crazy with them. That's a different era. Now a doctor they might not even know what the hell they're doing, but they could stop your fight in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And you're shit out of them. out of luck.
Hey, you don't want to argue. You don't want to argue with the umpire because he's gonna call strikes on you all damn day or throw your ass out.
Yeah, that happened to Michael Dutch over in Texas, his hometown, and that was in Andrew's fight. And Michael got cut. It was a very competitive fight, and Michael got cut on the eye. Well, the doc just stopped it. Andrew never even had a chance to work on it. The doc just stopped it.
Wow,
and
just like that.
But the doctor didn't know. He wasn't a fight doctor. So it's like Rudy Hernandez told me advice years ago. He said, and I took it to heart, and I do it all the time. He goes, you get to know the doctors, get to know the ringside physicians, because if they have confidence in you, they'll let you do your job, where sometimes it might be, if they don't know who you are, they will stop the fight.
Yeah.
And not, they don't know you. So I took that to heart. When I had Derevenchenko against Triple D in New York has 4 ringside physicians. They have 2 in each corner.
Yeah, the rules are a little different. We saw that in the Diaz fight.
I'm not convincing just one doc. I'm convincing 2.
Yes, exactly.
So, but I'm talking to them in between rounds. We're talking about it, and it's huge. It's important to know that.
Exactly.
And they're confident with me, And I had Dr. Schwartz when I had Sergey against Charlo, and he was all swollen and cut bad. And each round, Dr. Schwartz is like, and I met him at the ringside. When we did the doctor's physical after the weigh-in, the day before the fight, after the weigh-in. So I made it a purpose to go with Sergey and met him, and then that helped me in the fight because I think it was in the 9th round. He was looking and it was bad, and he was like, "All right, kid, you got 3 more rounds to hold it together. You're doing a hell of a job. Just keep doing what you're doing." And there was a point where he never even, he was up at the ring watching, but he would literally watch me do my. And what I love about real fight doctors, real guys on the ringside, who know what's at stake.
Exactly.
I love it when and they do this in Nevada. Dr. Schwartz did it in Connecticut. They watch do our job. They don't interfere in the minute that we have to work. And then the bout starts. They call time. Then the fighter goes to the corner and he looks. But they don't interfere with what we're doing. Some guys will get in there and interfere with it in between a round, and you don't have a chance to really work on. You don't got much time.
No, exactly. And see, these are guys that know how to handle the clock, and hey, that's even a power move, but they're seasoned at it.
Oh, it is, and every state's different. The doctors that they hire sometimes for, especially nowadays, if you notice, my gosh, they'll have 2 or 3 shows in the same night.
Exactly.
And then you got guys, these doctors are spread out to all these different fights.
Yeah.
Inspectors are spread out to all these different fights. Sometimes you don't have the same guys that you would normally have.
Yeah.
So you have inner crew, or you have the rookies in there. And like I said, every single show you learn something new. You have to look at the landscape of what's going on. You have to look at, you go to the ring. You see what the accessibility is to the ring. You look at where the cameras are, because sometimes the camera crews, not so much these days with the COVID, but in the old days, which was just last year, you got guys all in your way in the corner.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
Exactly. No, and they are. And I could tell you that too. And a little plug in for myself too. As a ring announcer, sometimes I got to tell them, hey, I got to get in, man. I got to get this decision. But they're concerned with their fighter, or they'll just kind of bogart the whole corner itself. So I know exactly what you're talking about. You got to transition as you go.
It's rough, and I've developed a technique because of that. Working all over the world in different fights in every state, that I jump the ring. I usually jump the hard side. I just need give me the old Gail Sayers, line of I need 6 inches of light. That's all I need.
Exactly.
That's sometimes all I need. Just give me that accessibility. I don't even go up the ringside stairs. It takes too long. I'll jump up.
It does.
And by me jumping up in a 60-second fight, in a 60-second break, I can get about 55 seconds out of that.
Hey, you figured it out already. You figured it out already. Exactly.
And that it's just better for me. and that I can be in the ring before any of the other corner are in there. I'll even be there as the fighter turns around to come back to the corner. I'm already on him.
Mike, if I don't get these questions in, I'm going to be in the ring, and you're going to be stopping the blood on me because these fighters are going to come and kick my ass. And these are questions right here. I mean, these ain't just questions. And in 30 seconds, if you can give me your best answer, because they're coming from some of your fighters and they're coming from Hall of Famers. And I'm going to start this one right here. This is from El Tiburon, Andy Vincents. He said,
All right.
through the tough times and the bad times, Herb Stone passing, he went to heaven. How did you maintain being loyal to the people and remain strong and continue to push towards your dream as a cutman, trainer, a gym owner? What would you say makes you different from the rest of the cutman in the world? From Andy Vincents.
Well, just having a passion for what I do. I mean, absolutely passion for it, love it. Herb was one of the ones that believed in me from day one when we met each other. Herb taught me a lot. I would drive Herb to the fights in California, the ones that we have locally. I would drive Herb there, and he would talk to me on the way there. And he's the one that he would have me sit down sometimes with the top rank, Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler, and he would have me sit down with them at dinner, and so I could just listen and see how the behind the scene stuff was. And Herb had always believed in me, and even to this day I hear his voice always in me. I always have his voice in my ear, talking to me about stuff. And he's the one, when we worked with Don Shargan and Paco, he would, lack of a better term, he would pimp me out for everybody. I'd be working 5 or 6 fights on the show. But, he believed in me, and that's that's one of the reasons I got better at what I did. Because working with managers like that would help me with his fighters. He would make sure I was there for his guys.
Right on. Great answer. This next it's a comment from Victor Morales Sr. He said, not a question, but more of a statement. He goes, my son is 13-0, 12 pro fights. He said, you have wrapped his son's hands because he allows you to, because he trusts you. He trusts everything that you do in the corner when you're with him. And the expectation of having you in the corner is just that extra notch when he goes out there for battle, having you in the corner. He said, Mike Bazzel is the real deal in boxing, and not just a cut man. He wears many hats. Now, briefly, talk to us about the many hats in 30 seconds. Give me your answer, sir. Yes.
Well, yeah, Victor, I remember, and I loved working with him. He's wonderful, and wonderful fighter. And he's started Golden Boy now. And,
yes.
When I started working with Chris Algieri, I was working at Snack, and he came over. He was, the cook he cooks for Daniel Jacobs. And during the week, day in, day out training camp, Chris was like, damn, Baz, you do everything. He goes, every time I want something, you have it. Or you understand what we're all doing, every aspect of the game. You're like, you're involved. Do these people realize how valuable you are? I don't think you're getting the best value. They're getting the best value of you out of this place. So anyway, long story short, I'm working with Chris in his fights. He's cutting me every fight, swelling up in every fight. And I start working in the bubble in ESPN. And me and Chris, on one of the fights, we watch movies during fight week. And we're big Charles Bronson fans. And we're watching
there you go, old school right there.
We're watching the movie The Mechanic, right, with Jan Michael Vincent. And we're like, Chris is like, that's you. He goes, that's you, Baz. You are a boxing mechanic. That's what you are. You know everything. So he's with Christina Poncer doing the remote for the bubble fights for the ESPN Summer Series. He's with Christina remotely doing the international feed or something, and then you have the regular guys on there, Tim and Andre Ward, and I'm getting to know because I'm in the bubble constantly with the ESPN crew. So the name The Mechanic comes out. So the ESPN crew, Chris, they put it. I didn't ask for it. They put it on the on my name on TV. So now it's a new brand that I have now, Mike the Mechanic Bazzel, and it's because it's like being a boxing mechanic, knowing you're not a one-trick pony. I do all aspects of the game, and I want to continue to learn other aspects of the game too. I want to continue to always get better.
Well, very
Always.
well earned and very well respected from your peers to give you that name.
Yeah, it was awesome. A lot of guys didn't understand it. I think like Eddie Croft texted me, the mechanic, like what? And I tried to explain it to him over text, and he's like, whatever. But that's Eddie, man. That guy. It doesn't matter how good I get. That guy will always feed me the humble pie, man. He will always.
And there's nothing wrong with someone keeping your feet on the ground, man.
No.
But I mean, but you're getting compliment after compliment. This next one is from Sean Gibbons. He said, you know what? I don't have a question for him or nothing, but besides, one day I want to hang out with him and have some beer with him. Tell him I am just a huge fan. Viva Bazzel.
Listen, Sean has been a wonderful person for me. I'm gonna tell you a quick story about me and Sean. I'm with Tony Johnson, who's Tony's boxer out of San Jose. He fights for Bellator right now in the cage. He's fought in every aspect. BKB champion back in Vegas. He's been in the kickboxer, cage fighter, boxer, and he took a fight in Salt Lake City, Utah. Tony took this fight, and it was one of his last boxing matches. And we fought this undefeated kid, and there was no money in this. Tony just took it on his own, and he goes, Baz, I need you to come with me. He goes, I can't afford any corner to come out. So he goes, you know how to grab hands, you know how to work the cuts. You've coached me in the past because I was his coach for a couple of his boxing matches. Yeah. Brian Schwartz was his coach for the BKB fights, and I go, all right, let's go. So we're in Florida, and Utah, and we're in this. I don't know. It was like this hotel thing, kind of like a DoubleTree or something, and the fights there. And I go to the bathroom, and it was after the weigh-ins. I go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden, I turn around, and Sean Gibbons is right there, peeing next to me, and I go.
Yeah, so basically, Mike, you guys are just literally hanging out.
Well, he goes, we're definitely hanging out. Definitely hanging out. You know what I mean? And I wasn't afraid to zip up. I think Sean quickly zipped up. I'm not sure. But all of a sudden, I look at Shawnee, and I go, what the hell are you doing? I go, hey, Sean, I didn't know you were here. You're working the fights? And he goes, what are you talking about? And I go, the fights. There's fights here tomorrow night. You're here for that, right? He goes, hell, I didn't know there were fights here. I'm here for a wedding. And I go, what? I go, you're here for a wedding? He goes, yeah. He goes, holy crap, there's fights here? And I go, yeah. So he's at a wedding on that night. So he stays the next night, and he watches the fights. And he actually filmed in the background. He filmed my and Tony's fight.
Wow.
For us. He did. Here, I got the footage for you. And he sent it to me. Yeah. It was just one of the things Sean would do, right? He not only watched the fight, but he also filmed it, so we could have it. We could have footage of the fight.
Sean is class act.
This is off the grid. This is an off TV fight.
Yes.
And, so that was great about Sean. And as a giving, people who give back and stuff.
Yeah.
Mike Rodriguez, he'll send me clips of fights when he sees me on TV, stuff like that. He'll also do that. But one really great thing about Stitch Duran, when I drew Teofimo Lopez, and then Russ Amber, he was the cutman for Loma. So, basically Stitch just sat out for that main event. Well, Stitch filmed me. He filmed me jumping up in the ring, and he sent it to me. And he also sent a couple of photos of me in the corner, and that meant a lot to me because it's like, that's not a guy this guy's been there, done that,
Yes.
He could just watch the fight. He don't need to be doing any of that stuff for me, but he did, and he's done it with other fights in the past. And I just that kind of stuff, Richard, means the world to me.
Yeah,
that's everything to me. To have your peers respect you, and I can sit down at the table, as you say, have a beer, sit at the table, break bread. As Aaron Navarro was said, I always want to break bread with my brothers every fight when we're on the road together, because you learn about a lot of things, but also there's this wonderful camaraderie, and those times I can never I could never trade those for anything in the world.
Well, you know what? I mean, anybody can walk up to the table, but to be invited and to be accepted and to be served, I mean, that's, enough said. And that's coming from the godfather of the Cutman himself. That's Jacob Stitch Duran. I mean, that'll take a whole another hour and a half.
Oh, yeah. That's what, that's what we talk about, and
exactly.
The ESPN keeps threatening to do a piece on us, and because we're kind of like, they say you guys are always together. We eat every meal together during the bubble, and that's the thing. The crew, the timekeepers, they all have the cameramen for ESPN. They all have a run rally every fight. They're like, "Oh, Stitch, you're getting your ass kicked tonight." Because the funny thing is, Stitch is always in. If you notice him over the years, he's always in the A side.
Oh yeah.
The Andre Wards. I mean, this guy does not lose in the ring. He's always on the A side fights. So in the bubble, we're splitting these fights. It's not like PBC where they go red guy, this guy gets the red, this guy gets a blue.
Yeah.
We'll mix it around. I'm moving to my next fight's in the red corner. My next fight's in the blue corner. We're switching back and forth. Well, the guys see us in passing and they're going, Stitch, you're getting your ass kicked by the kid tonight. You're down 3-1. They're teasing him. And he's like, I mean, it's all in fun.
Yeah.
All in fun. I went on the bubble, in the 2 months bubble, I had a 16-fight win streak.
Oh, wow. Nice.
The fame with Stitch Duran. That was but he's beaten me in almost every, it's 3-1, it's 5-5, 5-4, because we worked like 9 fights. I think the most rounds we worked in one card was 64 rounds. I think I was talking to Mike about that.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot of pounds jumping up and down on the ring.
Exactly. And talking about that, here's the slam dunk one right here. This is the last question of the evening, and then I'm going to share something with you, and then we're going to say bye to the followers and subscribers. This is coming from Hall of Famer. Let me say that again. From Hall of Famer, Top Rank's own Mr. Lee Samuels. He says, Richard, ask him this. Between rounds, going up and down those ring steps, you have about 40 seconds to go to do your work. What's the first thing that you look for when you jump right in there?
My first thing jumping into there, and I love Lee. Lee is an amazing person.
Awesome.
Great man. And, the first thing, well, I'm watching the fights, right? I'm already prepped with what I have to do going up. But sometimes you can be surprised by when you get up in there. So the cut could be deeper. The first thing I like to do, I jump the ring. I don't go up the stairs. If there's blood, I try to get my towel, my wet towel or wipe, on the fighter's face and lead him to this chair if it's a bad cut, because the docs are coming right behind me, and I like to wipe that blood, wound clean. So the very first
hide the evidence, man.
Thing the doctor sees is a clean cut. He doesn't see a bloody mess. It's very important for that first, even for the camera, to catch that first look of the cut. Wow. My hand is moving from the eye, and there's a clean now there's a clean wound, and that makes a big impression, especially when you have other people that are looking to to stop the fight or whatever. And I try to ignore all of them. Once I'm in the corner, I don't listen to what the cornerman's telling, the chief second is telling the fighter. I focus on what I have to do. I don't that's their job. I'm not in
exactly
for advice. I'm not in there. I'm doing my job. I might have to have the other. Sometimes the cornermen, they get a little excited and they're pouring water on the fighter's head. I gotta ask them, please stop. Especially if it's multiple wounds. I gotta do my job. I can't be. Don't be pouring the water over, washing out all the medicine, or don't rub the face for me. Don't touch the face for me. I was watching a fight with me and Stitch were watching Rudy Hernandez in a fight. It was a Top Rank show, and it was in Vegas, and they at the Cosmopolitan, and I forget the fighters' names, but Rudy had never worked with the guy before, and Rudy literally, the guy had multiple cuts. The guy ended up coming back and winning the fight, and it was all Rudy. And wow. Believe me, Rudy went right back to the dressing room. I'm watching this guy nimble up the stairs, up the hard side where he had to swing around the pull.
Yeah.
Because the corner didn't allow him easier access in there. They weren't even thinking about that.
He needs to have room to work and take care of that.
Get it.
Or there is no fight.
Rounds wiping the fighter's face and messing it up. And I'm like, and we talked after the fight. I have a picture on my Instagram of me, Stitch, and Rudy together, and it's from that fight. And we didn't watch it together, but we both watched it, and we both went to the back to congratulate Rudy. And he was just, it was business as usual for him. So, but we were talking, and he was like, "Oh yeah, they made it hard for him, but he was able to overcome all of that, and that's what you have to do. Sometimes you have to overcome the doctor, you have to overcome sometimes the inspector. They're trying to get you out with 10 seconds in there. They're trying to force you out, and you don't have to. There's a thing in the corners, the 10-second. When they say, okay, that's a warning, that 10 seconds until the round begins.
Yeah.
But a fighter can sit on his stool until that bell rings.
Yes, he can.
You have to stand up and you don't have to remove the chair. Sometimes inspectors, they get a little too excited.
A lot of it too. Hey, they want to be seen. They want to show everybody I'm doing my job as well. That and a little bit of ego, that'll mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. And there's many times where I'm swabbing. My swab is in that cut until the very last second. As I'm stepping out of the ring, I'm working on the fighter's face. So it's very, you have bad cuts that you have to spend every second that you have, because it's not 60 seconds.
No.
Like I've squeezed out my techniques that I use to get in and out of the ring. I can get about 55 of those 60 seconds. If I have to follow a trainer up, if I have to use the stairs because other guys need to be in the ring, the other cornermen need to be seen, then that drops me to 40 seconds. And that's not in the best interest of the fighter. And that's a Herb Stone saying that stuck with me even now, was my job is to always do what's in the best interest of the fighter.
Very well said, and we're going to leave it at that right there. You know what? We went over, but that's okay, because my program director is giving me that eye, because, I got to pay overtime. But you know what? It was very well worth it. I just want to tell you this right now, man. Mike and myself, we're going to do something in 2021, and Mike's going to make the trip down here, and I don't know what we want to call it, stop the bleeding, but we're going to have the who's who of Cut, man. We're going to have you back on the show. We got to have you in studio. We're going to have Stitch Duran. We're going to have Mike co-hosting with me in a couple of those shows, and just the storytelling. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be a cut man, that last question I asked him that was given by the Hall of Famer Lee Samuel, he just schooled you right now. If you were listening, then you paid attention that you got to get in there. Put the towel on there before that doctor comes in there, because you don't want the doctor looking at a cut full of blood. You want him looking at a clean cut. And you schooled everybody just by giving back on what you do. Mike, my gosh, you're one of the best storytellers here on the show. Having you on the phone, it's an injustice. We got to have you here in studio, and we got to just bring these stories to life, man. Because you're not just talking it, you're living it, and you are it. And iron sharpens iron. I'll continue to say that till I can't talk anymore. You guys continue to rub off each other. Can you imagine? You're working side by side with Stitch. You're working side by side with one of the best cut men in the world, and Mike Rodriguez, and the list goes on. And as you're inspired by Stitch, look how many people you've inspired.
Wow, that means a lot. That's wonderful. It's hard to. I have to pinch myself when you say stuff like that, because
it's the truth, man. We can go on and on. Now I'm going to close with this. What do you have to say to all the viewers and all the followers that watch and support Bazzel going to work?
Oh man, anyone that appreciates what I do, or any of that, mostly the fighters that always reach out, and that means the world to me. It really does. It's what gets me up in the morning. It's what allows me to be on the road for the long distances that I'm on the road, and it's just what it's all about for me. It's my passion. I love it. Strength and conditioning is my you know, that's my wife, is my gym, my job, my working in the gym, strength and conditioning, my clients, my fighters. But boxing is my mistress. It's like man, it's like, wow, you know, you can't, sometimes you want to say, what the hell am I doing this? And then when you see that the fighters call you, they appreciate what you do. You know, everyone involved in all the background people, the promoters, the TV people,
the people behind the scenes, man.
Yeah, it just means everything to me.
Well, you know what? You keep up the good work, man, and continue to do what you do. And, you know, I'm going to text you my address later on. I mean, I'm going to get your address later on because I got to send you the official Fighter's Voice T-shirt, man. Do me a favor, rock it for me. Send us a selfie with the thumbs up for Richie, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you, your storing. And you know what? It's finally getting you on the show, man. I mean, I know it took a while, but, you know, you're definitely going to come back and be a regular because my phone's already blowing up, man, because when I have certain people on there, they already want you to come back. And that's a good thing. And I'm glad you're taken out of your element, so to speak, where you were able to feel comfortable and share with the viewers, the fans, and just the fighter's voice in general. This is what this platform is for, to get a different side of the fighter, the manager, the agent, the cut man, and even myself.
All right. And I appreciate it. I had a wonderful time. And I can't wait. Let's get in the studio. That will be fun.
Exactly.
I'd love to be those guys.
Exactly. We're going to make it happen. Hey, I'm Rich Ortiz, your host of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. And like Baz here, we're simply knocking out the competition. It's a wrap. Thumbs up for Richie.
Never down for the count. It's just another wrap. Thanks for listening to The Fighter's Voice Radio Show. Catch us again next week.
Same when, same how.
And always stay connected to The Fighter's Voice on social media. So, on behalf of special guests and the whole crew right here at The Fighter's Voice Radio Show, saying see ya next week, right here on The